1.
My experience is really also hypervigilance, running away, being scared that people will raid our house in the middle of the night. After all of martial law, that's when my panic attacks erupted. I had nightmares of being chased by intelligence officers. I would wake up in the middle of the night sweating, with rapid palpitations. The effects of martial law don't just go away, they are there.
I signed Proclamation number 1081, placing the entire Philippines under martial law.
Karaniwang naririnig ng mga kabataan ang kwento ng isang halimaw na lumalamon ng buwan, ang pumapapak ng tao sa katahimikan ng gabi kung saan walang ilaw na masisilayan, doon ito naghahasik ng lagim. 6 na dekada ang nakaraan nang mabaon ng daigdig sa kadiliman. Isang ahas na matagal nang nagtitimpi ang umahon sa karagatan at nilantakan ng buwan. Bakunawa ang tawag namin.
I remember once we had a workshop on how to change the situation. So we were with participants in the open air, and then 2 military tanks came and pointed their cannon at us. We wondered if we should go through the workshop or not, and then we decided to push through.
Ang ulupong ay nagkatawang tao at ang siyang kinatawanan ay uhaw sa kapangyarihan. Gayunpaman, maraming sumamba sa lakas ng sawa. Maraming lumaban. At marami ring namatay.
My own direct experience was, I think somebody in my class who was from the state watching me in my class in social psychology. At that time, I was married to a political detainee, so my experiences, both as a mother of a little boy whose father was in prison, and also at the time as a wife taking care of not only one detainee but the welfare of those inside, those are my experiences. So, for example, not only visiting rights, but the prevention of torture. But that was very difficult because the first 2 weeks were the most crucial time for torture, because that's when they needed names and addresses of the ones they were looking for. But the first 2 weeks, usually they don't declare the person as picked up. Parang they deny the person was picked up. I knew he was picked up. We all knew, the network knew he was already arrested, but he was not declared arrested. So our first move, at least my own first move, was to mobilize students, Miriam and Ateneo and other schools, to hold rallies to declare that he was arrested. Pero hindi pa rin siya na-declare, so I decided to write Ninoy. And then they went on a hunger strike to fight for rights of those arrested. So during the hunger strike, I decided to up the ante and send a letter to Ninoy in Boston. Tapos ready.
Are still languishing in the jails of our land.
Ngunit may paraan upang mabawi ang nilamong buwan. Nagkaroon muna ng sukdulang karimlan nang angkinin ng serpiento ang buwan. Nagmakaawa sila kay Amang Bathala upang lisanin sila ng halimaw. Ngunit kahit kailan ay hindi siya tumugon. Kaya isa-isang kumuha ng lampara at sulo ang sambayanan at sila'y nag-ingay. Anim na dekada ang nakaraan nang mabaon ng daigdig sa kadiliman. Subalit, naibalik ang liwanag na siyang pinaglaban ng bayan. Lingid sa kaalaman, hindi naman tuluyang na maalam ang kadiliman. Maraming kaanyuan ang bakunawa. Maaaring may bahay.
I assume the presidency.
General
Mga minamahal kong kababayan,
Artista,
Kayo ang unang makikibahagi sa biyaya.
guro,
honored by the government and the people.
o anak ng yumaong Pangulo.
Kayo ang aking tunay na lakas.
6 na dekada ang nakaraan ng mabaon ng daigdig sa kadiliman. Nang akala nating napuksa na ang kadiliman, gumapang ito pabalik sa pinagtataguan. Isang katauhan ang umapak sa mismong entablado. Nagkwento siya ng panibagong storya, ang kwento ng dilim at liwanag. Ngunit sa kwentong ito, ang ahas ay bayani at liwanag ang katalo. Nagsaya ang sangkatauhan, humihiyaw sila sa galak. At itong ligaya nila'y nagbigay sa kanya ng lakas.
Hitler massacred 3 million Jews. No, there is 3 million. There's a 3 million drug addict. And we have pictures looked at him.
Father is a martial law survivor. He is a veteran activist since the martial law days. If you look in his career, everything that he does is about urban poor rights. It's about human rights. It's about being part of the marginalized. Since then, hindi na bago sa kanya itong concept ng red tagging and him being active in his activism. I think the only thing that's different from the level of activism now from the activism before is we are so constrained right now of our personal spaces. Kaya nga, if you look at Twitter, parang ang ingay-ingay sa Twitter. Ang daming conscious, ang daming galit. When you think about it, very inspiring ang consciousness ng mga tao. Pero the moment that you ask them to do something about it, to mobilize, doon na pumapasok na, okay, kala ko ba gusto na natin patalsikin si Duterte, bakit hindi tayo gumagalaw? Did we allow that level of activism to go out of our personal spaces? Hindi tumitigil yung fascismo. Despite the fact na we are conscious, we know about it, we know what's going on, we know what's happening. The next question is, are we doing something about it?
Marami pa rin ang sumasamba sa Bakunawa.
My campaign against drugs will not stop until the last voter and the last drug lord are...
He was killed at 5 o'clock in the morning in his rented place in Arevalo, Iloilo. So, days before the assassination of my father, he was leading the efforts in Iloilo to provide community kitchen initiative to augment yung kakulangan ng gobyerno to provide food sa mga communities affected by the lockdown, by the pandemic. In fact, they were successful with that campaign na the local police made an announcement over the radio na my father is being placed under surveillance because he's doing humanitarian work without coordinating with the local government. So the local police wanted tatay to coordinate and work with the local government to make it look like that the government is doing something during the pandemic.
Dahil makapangyarihan ang sawa, may mga nagkukunwaring hindi ito umiral noon.
You know what? Most of my family are already based overseas. They're telling me na I should move daw to Canada just to give time daw na pakalmahin lang yung sitwasyon dito sa Pilipinas. The thing is, okay, sige, I'll do that to myself. What about the rest? Will be staying here, continuing the fight? Do they want to die? Of course not. Do they want to sacrifice themselves and be killed? I don't think so. Pero do they have a choice? Yes, they have a choice, pero they've chosen to stay and fight. So what difference that I would choose that option to leave the country, be safe, and be away from all of this, kesa sa stay here, face whatever danger, and fight. I mean, they already killed tatay. What else can I lose?
Ngunit ang mga natira ay walang nagawa kundi magdusa. Subalit, may mga lumaban pa rin.
Ayuda at bakuna! Karapatan ng mamamayan! Ayuda at bakuna!
May mga nag-ingay at sumigaw at hinampas ang kanilang mga tambol. Karaniwang naririnig ng mga kabataan ang kwento ng isang halimaw na lumalamon ng buwan, ang pumapapak ng tao. Sa katahimikan ng gabi, kung saan walang ilaw na masisirayan, doon ito naghahasik ng lagim. Ngunit para maibalik ang nawalang buwan, kailangan magsiklab tayo ng sariling ilaw. Dapat tayo'y mag-ingay at kitlan ang katahimikan.
Pero hindi na ako bata ngayon. At lalong hindi sila.
Activism is done different ways. Just because you're an activist doesn't mean that you're always the one that's protesting.
It can be through things like art forms like film or paintings.
Ultimately, we choose the leaders that we think want to lead us.
We're going to put those people there.
Hindi mo yun maalis na Filipino ka eh.
Darating yung araw na mapapaos yung mga boses ng mga ano. And syempre, pag ganun, pag wala nang nagpo-push, sana may kusang loob yung mga kayang mag-work to actually do something and change what they can.
So if not activism, then the world kinda sucks.
Ang dakilang ahas. Ang lumamon ng buwan. Ang pakunawa. Hindi sila makatotohanan. Kung ano pa man sila. Matagal na tayong lumalaban. Matagal na rin tayong nag-iingay. Pati yung mga tambol ay napupudpud na. At para saan? 30,000 ang namatay.
The Philippine Commission on Human Rights has begun an investigation into the killing of human rights activist Zara Alvarez. Alvarez was gunned down Monday while she was headed to her boarding house in Bacolod City.
Ang demokrasya ay nawala. At pakinggan mo ang ingay na nagawa natin. Sinasabi mong ang bakunawa ay isang masamang halimaw na dapat nating pusain. Ngunit paano natin tatalunin ang sariling likhain? At sinasabi mong kapag nag-ingay tayo, kakarimpas ang ulupong. Ngunit paano natin patutugtugin ang mga tambol kung papatayin tayo sa lansangan?
I have full conviction of staying and fighting for him, for those na hindi makapaglaban. And definitely, I don't want what we are experiencing now na maranasan ito ng next generation. They get to enjoy the civil liberties that was promised by our democracy. It's not just me. It's not a personal fight. We have to understand this is always and will always be a collective struggle. Remember, hindi natin napatasik si Marcos because may isang tao na nag-rally sa gitna ng EDSA. No, napatasik natin si Marcos because there were thousands, even millions of people that protested or called for his ouster. The same principle happened in any revolution that has happened in the history of mankind.
Anong dapat natin gawin?
Lumaban!
Paano kung hindi ito umalis?
Lumaban ulit.
At paano kung tayong patayin? Pagod na ako. Pagod na pagod.
Mahimlay ka. Ang kinabukasan ay may dalang liwanag. Isang araw kada oras.
There's a saying na the silence of the few today is because of the noise of the brave before us.